Joining the show next is a guy that covers the Denver Broncos for the Denver Post, but has a little bit of news for us, I think, in future for him and what he'll be doing next. Joining the show here, Mr. Ryan O'Halloran. How we doing, Ryan? How's things going?
Good, Ryan. Good to join you today.
All right, so we're breaking news here. I know you probably tweeted it, but tell us what's ahead for you.
Yeah, I'll use this as a free advertising opportunity. I'm getting off the hamster wheel of NFL beat writing. Going to go start working for the Buffalo News next month with a concentration on some features and some NFL, some hockey, stuff like that. So excited to go from west to east again.
Well, congratulations. We wish you the best in that endeavor. But what we wanted you on the show for is your expertise around the Denver Broncos. And it's been a heck of an offseason, right, for this Broncos team. They add a perennial All-Pro Super Bowl champion quarterback. They've done that before, and it turned into a championship. Talk to us about Russell Wilson, his entrance to the Denver community, the Denver program, and where we are a few weeks into training camp.
Yeah, and you're right. As this has been an off season new for the Broncos, and Nathaniel Hackett, Russell Wilson ownership, but Wilson's the big one there, and he was acquired from Seattle, and they gave up a lot, but it required a lot to get a perennial Pro Bowl quarterback, and he jumped in with both feet even before the OTA started, had his receivers and tight ends, even a center in San Diego for at least 2 sessions. And I think yesterday was a good measuring stick. Granted, there was no tackling, couldn't sack the quarterback against Dallas in that joint practice, but he just felt like a Christmas of the Bronco offense. Not a lot of mistakes, a couple of touchdowns. So I think, and afterwards Wilson said probably further along than he anticipated, but then gave credit to his teammates for putting that time in. And I don't expect to see him tomorrow night, though.
What's it been like covering him? I've spent some time around Russell. He sometimes comes off to many people because of how shtick it seems, and some of the comments he has, the way he goes about his business, talking about playing 10 to 12 more years. He lived in the mindset of Trevor Moawad of neutral thinking his entire career. What's it like covering a guy with that much, I would say, confidence and unwillingness to see any negative in anything that he's doing or what he's about?
It is interesting because when he's at the podium, he does have these built-in talking points. And he'll answer the question. If it's a very specific question, he'll give you something. Yesterday I talked about, Javonte Williams, the running back, tight ends. He broke those guys down really well. So to me, it's if that's fine if you're winning, your teammates follow you, which they are. On the field, it's pretty interesting to watch Russell Wilson because he's always in motion. If it's not his rep, he's walking around. If it's not his drill, he's throwing passes on the side. He's throwing passes after practice. So he is in perpetual motion, which sort of fits the personality of what he likes to do in terms of traveling all over the place, having all kinds of workouts. So it's interesting. I wasn't here for Peyton Manning, but there definitely is that confident vibe that permeates throughout the whole organization.
We had Peyton on the show last time I was hosting, and he talked about how Russell reached out to him around entering that organization, how he can make things more seamless for everybody in the facility to make this as seamless as possible for them to vie for a championship run because they're probably playing in the most difficult and competitive division in all of football.
Yeah, and I think the AFC West is the best in the NFL. And one thing that Manning did, I was told when he got here, is he took ownership of this offense. I mean, you had an offensive coordinator, you had a head coach, but they were doing what Peyton Manning did best. Now Russell Wilson in a new offense with Nate Hackett, I do think he is going to get a lot of ownership in terms of what they do in the game plan, what they call on certain situations. So I think that's your common theme is this organization was, even though coming off a division title in 2011, they were looking to get back to the elite. Peyton Manning helped them take there. But Peyton Manning was the sheriff. He was in charge. I think Wilson's the same kind of mindset. Hey, I waive my no trade. I like the skill position talent here, but I want to have a little bit more say in what we do on offense.
Speaking of that, wide receiver talent and skill position talent. We're speaking with Ryan O'Halloran here on the Mercedes-Benz van phone line from the Denver Post. Talk to us a little bit about that skill position, right? The wide receivers, people really admired. I mean, there was talk for Aaron Rodgers because of that in the offseason every single year for the last 2 years. They've had some injuries, but Cortland Sutton, Judy, all of those things. Talk to us a bit about them.
Yeah, they're not as deep as they were at the start of camp. Tim Patrick tore his ACL. That's a big loss. I mean, he's never made a Pro Bowl, but he's just a reliable guy. 3 drops in the last 2 years combined. Big red zone threat. Since he got hurt last week, you've seen Cortland Sutton find his groove. You've seen Jerry Jeudy turn it up a notch because they realize it falls on them now because KJ Hamler's not practicing. He's their big downfield threat. They hope he's ready for week 1. So they started off with depth. It's been tested. Now they really need Sutton and Jeudy to emerge, as well as a couple of the tight ends minus Tim Patrick.
The joint practices with the Cowboys have seemed spirited, have seemed competitive. I know I have a fellow co-host here who's really interested to see what the Dallas Cowboys have looked like through this process. What are your expectations for this preseason game? Did you get most of what I think both teams wanted to see, in particular from their ones during these joint practices?
Yeah, yesterday they were going on side-by-side fields. Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott both took a ton of reps, which, as you pointed out, probably means you don't see him tomorrow night. I thought Dak was lights out for the Cowboys. I mean, granted, the Broncos were down. Their nickel wasn't playing. They were down Ronald Darby, the other corner spot. But I think as Russell Wilson talked about how his offense was locked in, I felt the Cowboys were as well. But I think from a Broncos defensive perspective, what you liked yesterday is they're around the football, breaking up passes, which they haven't been able to do the last couple of years. And Nick Bonito created some pressure, the rookie second-round pick, coming off that edge. They're going to need that pass rushing depth until Randy Gregory comes back. But, yeah, I think the Broncos got through no injuries yesterday, knock on wood, that we know of, and they got some work in. So I think they felt yesterday was a success.
I mean, this was in the works, of course, for a while now, but ownership has finally been moved from the Bolin family now to the Walton family. What has been the process there in Denver? How have people been in terms of reception of what this new ownership is going to look like after such a long legacy of a great owner and family that have been part of this Broncos organization for so long?
Yeah, I think from a fan's perspective, you're glad this debacle is over. I mean, there were a lot of court briefings, a lot of sniping back and forth. Finally, the team was put up for sale on February 1st. 3 months later, they have a deal with the group led by Rob Walton for $4.65 billion, which is a world record for a sports team. And if you're a Bronco fan, why you should like this ownership group is there's not a majority owner and then a bunch of other cooks in the kitchen. It's going to be really a streamlined decision process, and this Walton group has got cash, so They are not going to be cutting corners in terms of facilities. They're always going to spend the cap. They're always going to probably be tops in the league in cash spending because Rob Walton took over the team. He was officially the richest owner in the NFL. So, I think the Broncos are going to use that wealth to their advantage.
Something to think about. $4.65 billion for a franchise. Wow. I think what's been the stalwart and the mainstay for this Broncos team over the last few years, especially under Vic Fangio, has been the defense. Right now, you bring in Nathaniel Hackett, an offensive-minded coach, and everybody talks about they were a quarterback away from being a contender. How important is the defense staying on par? Because a lot of times when you add an offensive-minded coach, things kind of tend to flip-flop. And in this league, offense over defense is always a little bit better. But in this scenario, if they can get a defensive performance like they've had the last few years and add Russell Wilson to this dynamic, this is a team that really can make some waves this season.
Yeah, I think so. And defensively last year, they did what they're supposed to do against the bad teams, which helped pad their numbers. But the two things that jumped out against good teams, they didn't create takeaways, and they stunk on third down. So if they can be better in those two areas, and how do you get takeaways? You have a better offense to give you a lead. Opponents knew they could just run it against the Broncos in the second half of a lot of these games down the stretch because their offense didn't scare them. So, the combination Russell Wilson, Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton, et cetera, if they can score some points in the first half, that's going to allow Bradley Chubb, a healthy Randy Gregory, Pat Surtain at corner, Justin Simmons at safety. It's going to create more of those takeaway and those pass rush chances. But, as they point out during the training camp, the numbers were good last year. They got to make more impact plays.
We're speaking with Ryan O'Halloran, Denver Post Broncos writer, about the upcoming season for this Denver Broncos team. Okay, last question as we get out of here. We'd already talked about how competitive this division is. Russell Wilson makes a choice to come to this division where you have the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, and Justin Herbert. Right? Is there a fear from Broncos fans or people around that they're going to eat their own in this division, and at no point is there going to be a team that could vie for the first seed in the playoffs because of who they have to play on a weekly basis twice a year?
Yeah, I think 100%, and that's how you're going to probably see some of the predictions going. Is Kansas City, I think, is still going to win the division. They should be favored because of Mahomes. I don't think they're going to get the number one seed because those intra-division games, you got to play on the road, you got to play them at home. So just really, three teams like the NFC West could make the playoffs this year, but they'll each have a hard road to get to that Super Bowl because they're going to have to win 3 games and maybe one or maybe 2 on the road. So, Russell Wilson, the division didn't scare him, but, he's maybe the 3rd best quarterback in this division,
right?
And in the top 10 in the league.
Yeah, it's
firepower.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Ryan, thanks for taking the time today and filling us in and educating us on what's going on in Denver. Good luck with the new gig. Can't wait to see how it turns out.
All right, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Ryan O'Halloran and everybody from the Denver Post, talking all things Broncos.